The Russian Foreign Ministry released a statement on September 15th, warning the United States that supplying Ukraine with long-range missiles would cross a red line, and that if the US were to follow through, they would become a party to the conflict. More on that in today's video. The Russo-Ukrainian War encompassed ongoing hostilities between the two nations since 2014. The hostility was motivated by the political status of Crimea and Donbass, which, at the time, were internationally recognized as parts of Ukraine. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea and deployed military forces in Donbass, with allegations of Ukraine funding and supplying military weapons to Russian separatists increasing. The former Soviet Union escalated the war in February of 2022 by deploying military forces on the Ukrainian mainland. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was heavily condemned by much of the international community, alleging the former Soviet Union of violating Ukrainian sovereignty and several international laws. As Russian forces moved deeper into southern and eastern Ukraine territories, the United States began taking a more active role in the ongoing conflict by supplying Kyiv with military units, weapons, and personnel. They were joined in this venture by Germany, France, and much of Europe. In May of 2022, United States President Joe Biden published an op-ed in the New York Times stating that the U.S. military was considering sending long-range missiles and rockets to Ukraine as part of the $700 million weapons deal between the two countries. Recently, the United States has supplied Ukraine with GMLRS rockets fired from HIMARS launchers that can hit targets up to 80 kilometers. HIMARS launchers can also be used to fire longer-range Army tactical missile systems tactical missiles, which can have a range of up to 300 kilometers. A senior official from Ukraine, however, declined to comment on whether the U.S. had indeed supplied Kiev with Army tactical missile systems. Maria Zakharova, a spokeswoman for the Russian Foreign Ministry, stated that Russia had every right to defend itself against enemy conflict, referring to the August 9th incident wherein rockets were launched at the Russian airbase in Saki. The rockets were launched some 200 kilometers from Ukrainian territory, just north of the Crimea Peninsula, which Russia annexed in 2014. Washington reported that Ukraine agreed not to deploy any of the rockets themselves unless Russian forces moved forward. According to Biden's op-ed, the only real way to settle the Russo-Ukrainian conflict was through diplomacy. However, the United States would continue to supply high-grade military weapons to their ally to give Ukraine more leverage at the negotiating table. The only way, Biden continued, that Ukraine would be allowed to use the missiles and rockets against Russia would be if the latter increases its military operations first. Ukraine would have full autonomy to defend itself. The idea of the Army tactical missile system technology interestingly came after the United States believed that Russia was about to renege on the Warsaw Pact, believing that the Cold War had the potential to go hot. The technology was, however, put on hold for a few years until 2007, when it was deemed necessary for U.S. defense. The missiles have recently been upgraded with high-grade navigation systems, regrained motors, and proximity sensors for airburst detonation. The United States and other Ukrainian allies have, however, been renewing military packages to send to the country in light of the ongoing conflict. According to the international community, Kiev is yet to actually make use of any of the weapons that they've been supplied with. For its part, the United States has renewed a 19th military package for Ukraine, the one that we just mentioned. This includes more ammunition for Ukraine's 16 high-mobility artillery rocket systems, or HIMARS, anti-armor systems and rounds, anti-radar missiles, and mine-clearing capabilities. Another component of the new aid package seeks to enhance Ukraine's anti-armor capabilities with 1,000 tube-launched, optically tracked, wireless guided missiles, known as TOW missiles, as well as 1,000 Javelin missiles and anti-armor rifle rounds. In spite of the multi-million-dollar military deal between the two countries, Ukraine had been asking for more and more high-grade military weapons. A senior official at the Ministry of Defense revealed that the U.S. decided to hold off on supplying the long-range missiles, given the fact that Ukraine had been doing just fine without them. We actually are seeing the Ukrainians on a daily basis successfully weakening the Russian forces, the senior U.S. defense official said Friday, calling the cost being imposed on Russia significant. According to Moscow, Ukraine's Western allies, predominantly the United States, are using the ongoing conflict between the two nations to further their own Western propagation of Russia. The statement has been raised at several international conferences, with the hope that international sanctions placed on the former Soviet Union would be lifted. However, the United States has called these allegations baseless and false. Germany has supplied Ukraine with additional armored vehicles and rocket launch systems, specifically 2 Mars 2 multiple rocket launch systems, 200 missiles, and 50 armored Dingo troop carriers. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba has, however, been highly critical of Germany's stance on the ongoing conflict. For context, Berlin has established allyship with Ukraine, yet has gone back on several military deals made with the country. Kuleba claimed that any argument made by Berlin for not having sent high-grade air defense military weapons to Ukraine yet was irrational. The missiles, according to a senior defense official, are only to increase Ukraine's mobility in light of the ongoing conflict, especially now since Russian forces have been advancing into southern Ukraine. This continues our tradition of providing the Ukrainians what they need when they need it, the official said, adding, "This isn't the end." Interestingly enough, the United States had previously refused to supply Ukraine with Army tactical missile systems, long-range missiles, and rockets. This might have had something to do with either the fact that the United States has fronted over $50 billion worth of military equipment, units, and personnel to Ukraine, or the fact that the Ministry of Defense is preparing for a war against China for the illegal occupation of Taiwan. Now, however, the U.S. has decided to go through with the Army tactical missile system deal, egged on by senators in Congress, who reportedly weren't bothered by border conflicts between the nations. The momentum has really shifted in favor of Ukraine, and they're the ones that are literally calling the shots, declared former U.S. Army Europe Commander Ben Hodges. This was evidenced by the fact that Ukrainian forces advanced dozens of miles, capturing massive quantities of Russian weapons and ammunition, along with, according to Ukrainian officials, thousands of Russian soldiers, in the course of 1 week. Concurrently, Congress announced that the U.S. military would go forward with the Taiwan Policy Act, which would see through a multi-billion-dollar weapon deal with Taiwan and send high-grade military weaponry, perhaps including the Army Tactical Missile System long-range missiles, to the occupied nation and enforce the United States One China policy. The bill stated that Taiwan would thereafter be treated as a major non-NATO ally. Previously, the United States claimed it had no diplomatic relations with Taiwan. As the U.S. escalated its involvement in the war against Russia and its conflict with China, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping held their first in-person meeting since the start of the war at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. The crisis triggered by Russia's military debacle was on display. The Russian military debacle has, however, raised concern with both China and India, nations that have maintained neutrality during the ongoing conflict, but have undoubtedly been driven closer to the former Soviet Union, given the U.S. involvement. Putin spoke to the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, over the phone and stated that he understood the concerns expressed by the latter with regards to the ongoing war, but hoped that the concerns would be better explained via a formal meeting between the two. Alexander Gabuev, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, questioned whether or not China would openly ally with Russia in light of the Taiwan Policy Act going forward. He explained that while Xi would benefit from Putin's regime in Russia and would have considerable losses in a pro-Western government in the former Soviet Union, what could he really do? Ukraine could realistically take back much, if not all, of Russian-occupied territory with its counteroffensive air warfare weaponry. Kiev took the Kremlin by surprise earlier this month by taking control of much of Russian-occupied areas in southern Ukraine, capturing an alleged 1,000 soldiers and seizing Russian weaponry and defense systems in the area. As of right now, Ukraine has been listed as a potential operator of the Army Tactical Missile System long-range missile system. Current operators include Bahrain, Greece, South Korea, Romania, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and the United States. Currently, the country manufactures long-range missiles at its home base under Lockheed Martin. Poland, Austria, and Taiwan have been listed under future operators. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments down below what you think about the ongoing war between Kiev and Moscow. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more information.